Hi everyone, welcome to the channel. My name is Nick Cosgrove and I'm back with this week's No Filter Q&A. This is the episode where I answer all questions related to diet, training, and supplementation that I received over the past 7 days from our in-house clients, online clients, as well as a few of our online followers. Remember, if you have any questions related to your nutritional plan, workout program, supplements you're taking, not taking, considering taking, please feel free to email me those questions at nick@foreverfitperformance.com, or you can also DM me your questions on my Instagram at @fitcosgrove_. All right, so let's get started with this week's No Filter Q&A with question number 1. Hey, Nick, I asked my doctor if he could send me for blood work to have my testosterone levels checked. He told me that as long as my hair is growing normally, that my testosterone levels are good. Is this true? No, that's not true. I mean, okay, the only way to really know if your testosterone levels are normal and within normal range is to go and get blood work done. The fact that you have good hair growth is not a sign that your testosterone levels are strong and healthy. I mean, it's not a bad thing that your hair is growing. That's great. That shows that, you know, your body is, everything is okay there, but that's not necessarily a sign that your testosterone levels are checked. You know, you think about a lot of bodybuilders who take anabolic steroids, and one of the causes and side effects of anabolic steroids is hair loss. So these guys are injecting weekly doses of testosterone, and yet they're losing their hair. So just because you have high levels of testosterone doesn't necessarily mean that you're going to have a great head of hair or you're going to be able to grow a beard. So no, I don't agree with that. I think the only true way to know if your testosterone levels are within normal range is to go and get blood work. Now, there are some signs if someone is suffering from low testosterone levels. One of them is low energy. Another one is lack of libido, right? Those are usually two pretty good signs that if something's going on with your test levels, those will usually be the first two symptoms to appear. But sometimes no symptoms appear. And that's why it's important to go for blood work on a yearly basis. And especially for my guys who are over 40, I always tell them you should be going for blood work at least once a year. If your doctor doesn't want to send you for blood work or doesn't want you to just get your testosterone levels checked, I would go see another doctor. There's going to be a doctor out there that will. And just another test. So it's not a big deal. It's just you go to another doctor, ask he or she to write you up to go get some blood work done and see what your levels are at. But I wouldn't base the fact that your hair is growing, that your testosterone levels are good. Because again, there's no concrete evidence suggesting that that's actually true. There's no actual scientific reports that suggest that that's true. That to me sounds like more bro science that you can just find online. Okay. But no, if you think you're suffering from low testosterone, go and get your levels checked. And as I say, you know, after the age of 40, you should be getting those levels, the testosterone levels checked every 2 to 3 years. And you should be going for regular blood work at least once a year. I tell everyone to do that. So I think that's a good thing too. So from everything I've read and seen, no, just because you can grow hair and you have a great head of hair and you can grow a great beard, that does not necessarily mean that your testosterone levels are normal. So if you do feel like they're a little bit low, go and get them checked. Okay, next question. Hi, Nick. Is it safe for a woman to have a six-pack? I'm 34 years old and have never had one, but really want to see my abs. This is actually a really good question, because here's the thing, is I'm not going to say it's dangerous for a woman to have a six-pack, but at the same time, I would say it's not healthy. Of course, you're going to get a few people out there, women and men, who can just genetically get great six-packs, right? They just have that very low body fat in the midsection, and you can just see their abs from doing nothing. The problem, though, is if you're a woman and you have such low body fat where you can see your abs popping or you can see veins in your arms, that's not that great for your estrogen levels, and it's not that great for overall immunal health. Okay. You want to have, we need, both men and women, we need body fat, and women need more body fat than men do. So to sit here and say that have a six-pack is dangerous, I'm not going to go that far, but at the same time, I would say it's not necessarily healthy. Yes, you want to keep your body fat levels in normal range, but you don't want to go too low. And I can tell you this from working with tons of women for fitness competitions over the years. And they themselves will tell you, especially the ones that don't train for these shows anymore, the process to getting that lean, where you can see your abs 24/7. I'm not just saying first thing in the morning when you wake up and you're lean and you're fasted and you have no water in you. I'm saying 24/7. It's not an easy process, and you usually feel like crap 24 hours of the day. Like you may look good on the outside, but on the inside, you're tired, you have low energy. Sometimes you're weak in the gym. You know, our bodies need body fat. So to walk around with a six-pack year round as a woman, again, I'm not going to go as far to say it's dangerous, but I will tell you it's not healthy. It's not healthy for overall immunal health. And again, we need body fat, both men and women. So I find for women a good healthy body fat percentage anywhere between 20 to 25%. Now, if they're obviously getting ready for a fitness competition, that's a different story. But when you get that lean for a fitness competition or for a photo shoot, you don't stay that lean year round. Hopefully you don't. Because again, that puts a lot of stress on your body. So, and I can tell you from my own experience when I competed, when I get my body fat down to single digits as a guy, I think probably the lowest I ever got my body fat down to was maybe 5 or 6%, but I felt like garbage. I had like zero energy. Sometimes I'd be lying on the couch and I'd have to go take a piss and I'd be like, nah, it's not worth it, because I just felt like so drained. So it's not a good feeling. And then you have to be very careful as a woman, because you don't want anything to affect, you don't want to have a hormonal imbalance, right? And that can be caused by very low body fat as well. I've worked with women who've trained for those fitness competitions, and a lot of these women haven't gotten their period in 6 months, 7 months, right? So it's not a healthy to go too low on your body fat. You got to have that happy medium. Now, you could get a very lean midsection. You don't necessarily have to have ripped abs. The abdominals will really also depend on your genetics, because some people, as I mentioned earlier, some people just have that genetic structure where they don't have to do much and their abs just pop out. I have a friend that doesn't even work out and he's got a six-pack all year round. He's not lean everywhere, but he's very lean in his midsection. That's just not where he carries his fat. So unfortunately for a lot of people, men especially, we tend to carry our fat in our midsection. Some women too, but men predominantly, we carry our fat in our midsection. So obviously, it's good to keep your body fat levels, I say, in a healthy range, but you don't want to be too low. So just to clarify, for a woman to have a six-pack, I wouldn't go as far to say it's dangerous, but I would not say it's healthy. All right. Next question. Nick, what do you think about Andrew Tate's recent arrest for human trafficking? I heard he's been detained in a Romanian jail for 30 days. I heard he was arrested. I think it was on Friday. He was arrested Friday morning, but I think they released him. I think he's just being detained in Romania. I don't think he's actually in a jail. I could be wrong on that, but I think he's just being detained in Romania. I think they've taken his passport, all 6 of his passports. I get a lot of questions on Andrew Tate. So listen, with Andrew Tate, there's a lot of things that he says that I agree with, and there's a lot of things, I would say more things that I disagree with. For one, I feel that men and women are equal. Okay, I don't feel that men own women, and I don't feel that men are better than women, and that all these claims that he makes, there's a lot of things that I don't agree with. Now, the thing is, as far as the human trafficking, I don't know enough about this case to really comment. I do believe that he made his money originally, I think, well, he made some money doing professional kickboxing, but you don't make much doing professional kickboxing. So I think he made the bulk of his money originally from doing the online like girls camps. It's kind of like an OnlyFans thing, but I think this was before the OnlyFans. So he started with the webcamming for the women. And so I think he's always had his hands in with a lot of this stuff with the sex industry as a whole. So again, I don't know the relation with the human trafficking yet. I guess innocent until proven guilty. But I do think Andrew Tate has to be careful, because he takes no responsibility for the fact that he has a huge platform, and there's so many people that listen to him, especially young guys. And that's dangerous, because the mentality that he's portraying out there, suggesting that men are stronger than women, and then that men are here and women are here, it's very dangerous, because when you have that type of platform and you have so many followers, you're a huge influencer. So people listen to what you say. It's not like me, where I don't have millions of followers. So, I might say something, I'm still giving you my opinion, but obviously I have to be careful because I'm putting it online. I have to be careful what I say for maybe younger audience listening to this. But at the same time, I don't have that same responsibility as Andrew Tate, who's got millions of followers. And a lot of those are young guys, and they're impressionable, and they listen to what he's saying. So I think it's very dangerous. As far as the human trafficking, I can't comment on that. I'm not going to say he's guilty, because we don't know if he's guilty of that. So that's for the courts to decide. I guess the police are going to do their investigation, but right now, innocent until proven guilty. So I can't really comment on that. But I have had questions in the past about Tate, and I seem to be getting more and more. And I just want to clarify that I don't think everything he says is wrong. I do think he's sexist, despite what he thinks. I think he's sexist. I think he says some things that are pretty out there. I think he's irresponsible with a lot of the things that he says. I do. I think, yes, he can be motivating for some people for when it comes to like being successful and making money. But for example, his views on depression, he doesn't believe depression is a real disorder. Depression is a real mental disorder. It's a real thing. It's not something that you just pull out of your ass, but he doesn't believe in it. So I disagree with him on something like that. And there's many other things I disagree with him on, but you haven't heard of Andrew Tate, I suggest you Google him. He's very popular, but he's very, I don't want to say he's right-wing, but he's definitely not left-wing. So I don't know if he's considered himself right-wing or not, but he's just kind of out there. Says what he wants, and I respect that. But again, when you have a platform that big, you have to be responsible and you have to be careful what you say. I'm not saying you have to censor yourself 24/7, but you have to be careful because you have a younger audience that's listening to you and they're hanging on every word you say. And, you know, sometimes there's a little snippet of something you say and then it gets chopped up and it gets put on YouTube. And Andrew Tate saying that, you know, men are better than women, men are stronger than women don't go out and fight wars and all this stuff. And all of a sudden, like, you got these young guys who are listening to this and like, yeah, see, women are useless, or I own women. And, you know, that can be dangerous. So I think he's a little irresponsible. Okay, next question. Hi, Nick. If all the past Mr. Olympias that are still, sorry, let me repeat that. Hi, Nick. If all the past Mr. Olympias that are still alive today compete at this year's Masters Olympia, who do you think would win? I think Phil Heath would win, as he's the most current Mr. Olympia that's allowed to compete. Well, I disagree with you. I don't think Phil Heath would win because he is not allowed to compete. I believe the Masters Olympia is 45 plus. Last I checked, Phil's 41 or 42, so I don't think he's old enough to compete. Again, I could be wrong on that. Maybe because he is a previous Mr. Olympia, he's automatically allowed to compete, but I don't think he is. I think the rules are 45 plus for Masters Olympia. So given of all the current or all the past Mr. Olympias, I should say, that are still alive, there's quite a few of them that are still alive. I would have to say Dexter Jackson. If he came back and competed, I'd love to see him come back and compete. He's only been off for 2 years, and he won the Olympia back in 2008. I mean, Dexter just has those genetics. I mean, up until the time he was 50, he was always placing top 5. So he was beating guys who were half his age, and he placed second in the Mr. Olympia in 2000. I think it was 15, almost 10 years after he won the Olympia in 2008. So yeah, if anyone could do it, I think Dexter Jackson could do it. He's healthy. He doesn't have any injuries, any serious injuries. He's still relatively young. I think he's only 51 or 52 now. So I think he'd be first. You know, I can sit back and say maybe Jay Cutler, but I think Jay's taken too long off now. He's been off for, I think his last show was in 2013, and he's obviously downsized, and he was more of a mass monster, right? So he'd have to get big again to be able to compete at that level. Whereas Dexter was a small guy. He never relied on his size. So I think it would be much easier for him to transition from his retirement life off the stage to getting back on the stage for a Masters Olympia. So I could see Dexter making a run at that for sure. Part of me would love to see Lee Haney make that run. I mean, Lee Haney, he retired, I think, in 91 or 92. To me, Lee Haney has one of the best physiques of all time. If you don't know who that is, Google Lee Haney. He was Mr. Olympia from, I believe, 1984 to 1991 or 92, something like that. He was 8-year champ. Him and Ronnie Coleman are tied for most consecutive Mr. Olympias of all time. But I don't think, I mean, I think Lee Haney's almost 60 now, so I don't think he could beat Dexter. But yeah, I would give it to Dexter. And I think if I was to say someone who could be a close second, I would actually have to give it to someone like Dennis James. I think Dennis James would be a second. And if Dennis Wolf could come back, if that neck injury is gone, I think Dennis Wolf could be in that top 3 as well. I think those guys would be fighting for second place, Dennis James and Dennis Wolf. But I could see Dexter taking that pretty hands down. So if I had to pick top 5 in the Masters Olympia, I'd say Dexter in first. If Dennis Wolf could come back, that neck injury is good, I'd say second because he's still relatively young. Dennis James third. I think Cutler could play top 5, so he probably fourth. And then I think maybe Dorian Yates, although he had to retire from some injuries and he's been gone for a long time. But I think, you know, he's still in fairly good shape and he doesn't look to have any injuries right now. So I think he could be a top 5 right there. I know a lot of people want to say Ronnie Coleman, but I don't think Ronnie Coleman would be able to compete. I mean, Ronnie Coleman is walking around in crutches, so even if he were able to train for the show, I don't think he'd place top 5. All right. Next, as much as I'd love to have Ronnie in that top 5, and I'd love to see him place first again, because like Ronnie Coleman, greatest bodybuilder of all time, but I don't see it. Okay. Next question. Nick, do you have any tips to prevent the New Year's hangover? Don't drink. Don't drink. Best way to prevent the hangover. But if you are going to drink, my go-to is usually before I go out for a night of, I don't binge drink, but if I go out for say 3 or 4 drinks, what I'll typically do is I'll front load a lot of my meals. So I'll try to get 5 good solid meals in before I drink, and then I'll get 1 meal after I drink. So right before I go to bed. And I've said this before, is no matter what, no matter how I feel after a few hours of drinking, I'll always make sure I eat a good solid meal before I go to bed. So that meal is not like pizza or chicken wings or burgers and fries. That meal is something that I have at home. It's like salmon with rice, or it could be cod and sweet potatoes, or it could be chicken and quinoa. So it's one of my usual meals. I'll have that before I go to sleep. And I'll usually down that with about a 1 liter of water. So that I find helps a lot too. So having that big meal before I go to bed, that makes a big difference. And also, of course, and people have heard this before, is drink water. So as you're going throughout the night, drink water too. Don't just save it for the end of the night. Try to drink, for every glass of wine you have a glass of water, right? That'll help as well. Do not use Advil or Tylenol. I talked about this before too. If you go to Advil's website, they will even tell you, do not use this for a hangover. Okay, so don't start taking Advil or things like that for a hangover. We don't want to do that. So we want to make sure we're doing things naturally. So don't start popping pills to fix one problem. It's going to cause another problem. You don't want to put more stress on your liver after you've been out drinking all night. Okay, so that's exactly what Advil would do. So don't do that. But yeah, that's what I'd recommend. I mean, drink water in between, of course, and then try to front load your meals before you go out for a few drinks. And then at the end of the night, have 1 big meal before you go to bed. Chug back a liter of water like I do, and that usually works fine for me. I rarely, if ever, am hungover. Mind you, I don't really drink that often, but when I do, I'm rarely hungover, and just for that reason, because I make sure I stay hydrated and I'm well fed before I go to sleep. Okay. Hi, Nick. Do you think gyms should charge more to the New Year's crowd and less to existing clients during the first month of January? I get so annoyed with how busy the gyms get during this time of year and have to wait until mid-February for all the gym newbies to go away. You bring up a good point, actually. I mean, I don't train at commercial gyms, but when I used to, yeah, I would get a little annoyed with the New Year's crowd. But, over the years, I've come to the defense of the New Year's crowd, because not everyone who goes to the gym in a new year just stops in February. It doesn't work like that. I've seen some people, I've had clients that started with me the first week of January, and they've been with me for 10, 15 years. That was their New Year's resolution back in, let's say, 2005, and they've stuck to it. So you can't just say everyone who comes to the gym first week of January is going to be gone in February. Now, are most people who start the first week of January going to be gone in February? Yes, but not everyone. So I think it's wrong to stereotype and to say, oh, all these New Year's resolutioners, they're in my way, I'm annoyed. And listen, they're paying for the space just like you are. They have a right to use it. But I do like that idea, actually. I think that's a good idea. I think gyms should take note of that. I mean, obviously, if they're new clients, I would imagine that they're paying more. Mind you, gyms have this thing where they'll sign up new members and give them like a 50% discount. And then you get the existing clientele paying more too. So there are some gyms that do that. But if I were to own a commercial gym, what I would be doing is I'd be capping hourly. And what I mean by that is, and there are some gyms in the US that do this. I don't know many gyms in Canada that do it. But what they'll do is they'll do certain hours and they'll say they're blocked. So like, for example, we know peak hours in gyms are usually 6 a.m. to 9 a.m. and then 5 p.m. till 8 p.m., right? Those are peak hours for the 9 to 5 crowd. So if you're a busy gym, you might want to say, okay, during those hours, especially during the New Year's, when you're going to get all these new clients coming in, the hours are capped, not the hours capped, sorry, the amount of people per hour is capped. So you might say in a gym that holds 100 people and say, okay, from 5 o'clock to 8 o'clock, we're going to keep the gym max from 5 to 6, 6 to 7, 7 to 8, and cut them off. They were doing this during COVID as well. They give people timelines to train. You'd say, okay, you got an hour to train and you have to leave. I actually thought that worked really well for a lot of gyms. I had a lot of clients who were telling me they're training at commercial gyms and say, well, I only have an hour. I'm like, that's all you need. You don't need more than an hour. because during COVID, a lot of gyms were doing that. They were saying, okay, we can only have so many people on the floor for this a lot of time period. So people would sign up online. You'd have maybe 30 people in the gym, and then those 30 people would go in and then they'd leave. Gym staff would clean up the gym, and then the next 30 people would come in for the second time slot. I thought that worked really well. Now, obviously, you're a business, you need to make money, so you can't do that post-pandemic. But again, you can expand that number. You could say, okay, we're going to have 50 people in at this time slot, right? And I think that's a good way to run it. And I'm not saying do that year round. I'm just saying doing that, especially during times like this, during a New Year's crowd. I think that's a good idea. As far as giving a price reduction to current clients, yeah, I've said from day one, your clientele that's been with you long term from day one should always be paying less than new clients who come in, of course. But gyms don't always see it that way, right? They say, okay, we got to bring new people in. We're going to give them a really ridiculous offer. And then your client who's been there for 2 or 3 years is like, what the hell? I've been paying you this much, and now you're giving this brand new person half the rate that I'm paying. So I think it's a slap in the face. I like your idea. I think there's a way it can be implemented. But yeah, I think that is a good idea. I think not necessarily giving your current clients a price reduction, but capping the numbers on the floor for new gym members. And then, yeah, charging them more, charging a premium rate for them to use the facility. But something can be done, because you don't want to piss off your current clientele, because that, you know what happens? They leave, they go to another gym. And I know a lot of people who are willing to pay more to work out at a gym that is not as busy. I'd be one of them. I would gladly pay $200 a month to go train at a gym where I don't have to wait 10 minutes for a piece of equipment, or I have to alter my whole workout because the gym is overcrowded. I don't want to save, $50 or $15 or $20. I want to spend that money and I want to go get a good workout. So I'm the type of person that's willing to pay that. I would budget for it, and I know lots of people would. Okay, so yeah, if you stretch yourself too thin and you start giving everyone these low price deals, it's going to happen. A lot of your good clientele base who aren't even looking for deals, see ya, they're gone. Okay. Nick, I was wondering how you design a training program for someone online. I live in Toronto and would like for you to train me, but I'm not sure how it would work if you're in Vancouver. So with my online training programs, what I'll typically do if I'm not working with you in person, because a lot of my clients who I work with in person, I also work with them online. So for example, I have some clients who train with me at my gym, but then they also train at their own gym 2 or 3 times a week. So I do an online program for them that they can do in their gym. Regardless though, every time I work with someone online and they're not working with me in my gym, I ask them for photos of their gym. So I can see exactly what they have available. Do they have squat racks? Do they have cable machines? Do they have hammer strength equipments? These are all things that will help me design a program. Obviously, I'm not going to give someone, let's say, a isolateral hammer row if they don't have a hammer machine, right? Wouldn't make any sense. So I always ask for photos. And then once I have photos, I have a general idea what the gym has and what they don't have. And then I can put a program together based on what the gym has available to them and what the person's goals are. And obviously I assess the physique. So you send me photos of what you're looking like and say, okay, well, maybe you could use a little bit more definition in your pecs. Maybe you need a little bit more size in your delts. Maybe you need a little bit more definition in your quads. And then I structure the program together based on what I feel that you need based on your physique. And also I ask you yourself, I say, well, what do you really want to build on your physique? I work with a lot of women that say, I really want to build up my glutes. And I say, great, we're going to give you 2 leg days. And I've talked about that in the past, how I'll implement, like, say, a quad day on one day, and I'll do a hamstring glute day on the second day. So it really depends on the person I'm working with, but also the gym that I have available to me. I have some people that work out at their own home gym, so they don't really have that much equipment, but you don't need a lot of equipment. You could do a great workout with just dumbbells, right? And you can hit all your muscle groups. I have some people that follow dumbbell only workouts. During COVID, a lot of my clients who were not training with me at my private facility, training at their home gyms, all they had were like 2 or 3 pairs of dumbbells. That was it. So we put together a program for them and it worked fine. So you don't need to have a big fancy gym with all the bells and whistles. If you have a gym that has a squat rack, that's perfect. That to me is a fundamental. I personally wouldn't sign up for a gym that didn't have at least 1 or 2 squat racks. Because with the squat rack, you can do so much, right? So that to me is an essential piece of equipment. But again, you can get a great workout at home, okay? But if you're not too sure of how to put that program together and you want to work with me online, all you have to do is send me photos of what you have available. And I'll put that together based on everything that I have. So I have, if I see what you have at your gym, what I'll do is I'll take all the exercises on my online training app. And by the way, all those exercises are every single exercise I give you, there's an attached video of myself doing the exercise. So if you're like, well, how the hell do I do a seated Arnold press? And you just click on the actual exercise, and there's a video of me demonstrating how to do a seated Arnold press. So there's no guessing. You don't have to go to YouTube or ask your friend, or just, it's right there. So that's how I do training programs. Take some photos of your gym, take some photos of yourself. You send it all to me, and then I take that all in. I digest it all in, I mix it all up, put the program back to you, and then we go from there. If you're buying a one-time plan, I'll obviously answer any questions, make tweaks to the program for 1 week. If you're buying a 12-week program, you have to use your coach for the entire 12 weeks, where we make revisions on a weekly basis based on how you're looking. And also, you can say, you know what, Nick, this exercise doesn't feel right. I have some people, for example, that can't do a barbell back squat. They can do a barbell front squat, or they can do a hack squat, or they can do a leg press. So we have to find the exercises that work for you as the individual. Not everybody's designed to do every exercise. So that's where the customized coaching comes into play. So it's not a one-size-fits-all generic plan that goes out to the masses. All right. Next question. Hi, Nick. I saw your photo of your client's transformation on Instagram. How was she able to get that lean off only 20 minutes of cardio 3 times a week? Did you cut her carbs really low? No, her carbs were quite high. So you're referring to, I think you're referring to my client Valeria, and I had her on, I'm still working with her now. I believe I had her on, I'm trying to think, about 150, 160 carbs a day. She's a vegetarian. So I have to be very careful when I'm dieting a vegetarian, because as I mentioned in the past, their protein sources contain carbohydrates. Most protein sources for a vegetarian will contain carbohydrates: beans, lentils, kidneys, all that, kidney beans, all that stuff has carbohydrates. So you have to be careful if you're implementing, let's say, rice and quinoa and sweet potatoes into a diet like that. So yeah, I think she was doing about anywhere from 120 to 150 carbs a day. That's what I have her on right now. And here's the thing. Cardio is overrated. I'm telling you right now, cardio is overrated. Cardio is great for your heart. Don't get me wrong. Everyone should be doing some cardio. But if you're in the gym relying on cardio to burn fat, you're doing it backwards. Okay. Cardio is a great tool. Like I said, it's great for overall heart health. And I do recommend people do it. But I don't use it to help burn fat. I mean, okay, I shouldn't say that. I use it as a tool to assist in burning fat, but it's not the main thing I use to burn fat. The main thing I use to burn fat is resistance training, because the more muscle you have, the more calories you're going to burn in a rested state. And I say this all the time to people. I say, guys, you're going to get more bang for your buck. You're going to get better results if you focus more on the weight training component than the cardiovascular component. Absolutely. Okay. So if you're trying to work for, let's say you want to lose weight or lose body fat and build muscle, you're better off spending the majority of your time in the gym doing the weights. Okay. Because once you leave that gym, you're building muscle, your body you go home, you replenish it, get the nutrients in. The more muscle mass that you're carrying right now, the more calories your body's going to burn in that rested state. So it's almost like your metabolism is like a furnace. Okay. So again, if all you're doing is relying on cardio, well, guess what? You're going to have to continue to rely on that cardio to burn that fat. Whereas if weight training, I've had clients take 2 or 3 weeks off from weight training. They go on vacation, they come back, they don't put on any weight. They may have lost a little bit of strength, but that's just because the glycogen in their body's been depleted. That takes 2 or 3 workouts and their strength goes back up again. Some people come back to the gym stronger because their body just needs the rest. But rarely do I see someone take 2 or 3 weeks off from the gym and they put on all this weight. It doesn't happen. But if you're constantly relying on cardio and then you stop going to the gym and you're not running or doing anything for 2 or 3 weeks, yeah, and you're eating a lot of food and you're not doing anything to burn those calories, well, because you don't have the muscle mass, you're not burning as many calories in a rested state. So that's why. And that's why she was able to get away with doing 20 minutes of cardio 3 times. I actually think I have her doing only 2 cardio sessions a week now. So she's at 20 minutes. So there's no need for her to do more than that. She's leaning out. She's losing 1-2 pounds a week. So I see no reason to increase that. She's not prepping for a fitness competition. So we don't need to get her down to like 12% body fat. There's no reason for that. And as I mentioned earlier, I don't particularly like bringing women down that low in the body fat, and we'll only do it for a fitness competition. And that's the only time. And that'll be for a short period of time. And then we bring the body fat back up again. But honestly, to get down to that 18, 20%, even then that's a little low. That's where I try to get the ladies I work with down to that percentage. You don't have to do endless 3 hours of cardio. Okay. You don't have to do that. You don't have to diet on 5 carbs a day. Okay. That's ridiculous. Will you get the results faster if you do that? Probably, but you're going to rebound really hard because it's not sustainable to follow 3 hours of cardio a day and 5 carbs a day. You have to find a diet plan that is sustainable and a training program that is sustainable, because you're going to continue to do this. Okay, you can't just do a quick fix. Quick fixes only work for a short period of time. As soon as you jump off that quick fix, the weight comes on and more some. So don't follow crash course, stupid bro science diet plans or cardiovascular plans. All right, last question. Hey, Nick, how often and how long do you recommend I stretch? I work out 3 times a week with weights. With stretching is a funny thing. If you have a training partner, my recommendation is to do called PNF stretching, which is perpetual neuromuscular function stretching. You're going to get way more benefits from assisted partner stretching than you will stretching on your own. So if you have like a training partner, like what I would do with my training partner is, let's say we did legs. Okay. And I'll usually stretch the muscle that I train that day. So if I did a leg workout, I'll do some active release PNF stretching on her, and then she'll do some on me. So if I'm doing, let's say, a hamstring stretch where I'm taking her leg and bringing it up past 90 degrees, I'm going to give her a little bit more resistance from my angle. And then I'm going to ask her to push back on me when she's in a more weaker, compromised state. So we're going to help stretch out the tendon, and we're going to stretch out the muscle fiber. So it's an assisted type stretch. Let's say we did the shoulder, same thing. Most people will do the handcuff shoulder stretch. Well, what I'll typically do with a PNF stretch, I'll put someone's hands right behind their head, and I'll put their elbows back, and I'll pressure on their elbows for them. What that'll do is help open up the trapezius and the rhomboids. It also give a little bit of stretch to the pectoralis major and minor as well. Assisted stretching, in my opinion, is way more beneficial than doing stretching on your own. But if you don't have a training partner and you are on your own, then my recommendation is to just stretch the muscle groups that you're training on that day. So as I mentioned, if you have a leg workout, spend the last maybe 5-10 minutes doing some stretches on your legs. Now, what I recommend is in between sets, if you're training at, say, a commercial gym and you're doing basic straight set training, in between sets, do some dynamic stretching. Don't do static stretching, because remember, when you do static stretching brings a muscle into a state of relaxation. That is something that we do not want to do while we're working out. The last thing you want to do is do a heavy, intense set, then take the muscle into a state of relaxation, then go right back and do a heavy, intense set again, right? Don't want to do that. So ideally, you're going to do your dynamic stretching during your workout, and then you can do some static stretches like a runner stretch, hamstring stretch against the wall after your workout. As far as time, as I said, 5-10 minutes. I don't think you have to go crazy into stretching. If you want to take a few yoga sessions a week, I think those are very beneficial. Picking 1 or 2, that could really help. But for me personally, what I like to do is the PNF stretching. So if I have a training partner with me, I'll get him or her to stretch me out, and then I'll do the same for them. And it's always the muscle group that we focus on that day. So I said, if it was a leg workout, we'd be doing stretching of quads, calves, hamstrings. If it was a shoulder workout, we would be doing the trapezius, rhomboids, anterior, posterior, medial deltoids. So it really, that's the focus. That's what I do. You don't want to overstretch a muscle, because you don't want to take a tendon into a state of elongation, because then you're going to ask for trouble. That's the easy way to tear or strain, right? So ideally, if you're doing a static stretch, keep that stretch for about 45-second to a 60-second hold. Dynamic stretching, same thing. I mean, if you're only resting a minute between your sets anyway, you're not going to be doing a dynamic stretch that often. Dynamic stretch is movement. Static stretch is a hold. Okay, there's no confusion there. All right, guys, that's it for this week's No Filter Q&A. This episode will be going out on New Year's Eve. So if you do have any questions for the new year with regards to your training program, nutritional plans, supplements you're taking, not taking, considering taking, maybe booking a few sessions with me at our private facility downtown Vancouver, or working with me online, please feel free to email me at nick@foreverfitperformance.com, or you can also DM me on my Instagram at @fitcosgrove_. Guys, thank you all so much for watching. Thank you for your support. I wish you all a happy new year and the absolute best in 2023. Thank you, guys. Have a good night.